When Allah says, "In tansurullaha yansurkum," we can never fathom and we will never be able to understand the iman and the resilience of the people of Gaza. A small child, this girl, is reciting Quran and she hears the bombs falling and she continues the recitation of Quran. The highest number of suicide deaths is amongst the atheist community. And the lowest number of suicide deaths is amongst the Muslims. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونؤمن به ونتوكل عليه ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له ونشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له ونشهد أن سيدنا ونبينا وشفيعنا وسندنا ومولانا محمدا عبده ورسوله أما بعد فقد قال الله تبارك وتعالى في كتابه المجيد وفرقانه الحميد بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إن هذا القرآن يهدي للتي هي أقوم ويبشر المؤمنين الذين يعملون الصالحات أن لهم أجرا كبيرا. قال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم إنها ستكون فتنة فقلت ما المخرج يا رسول الله؟ قال كتاب الله إلى آخر الحديث رواه الترمذي أو كما قال عليه الصلاة والسلام. صدق الله العظيم وصدق رسوله النبي الكريم ونحن على ذلك من الشاهدين والشاكرين والحمد لله رب العالمين. أما بعد. Honorable respected brothers and sisters in Islam, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. It is now more than 110 days since the genocide against the people of Gaza and the Palestinians in general has begun, and they are still relentless in their bombing, and they are not prepared to stop, or they are not prepared to adhere to a ceasefire. As you may know, that today will be the ruling of the ICJ. And I just want to point out and highlight that if we, after this much of time, and after seeing this many footages, and after seeing the condition of the people of Gaza, have an iota of hope and desire in the ICJ and in the United Nations, then I'm sorry to say that perhaps we are still not ready for the victory to come. Because our iman does not lie with the ICJ, and our iman does not lie in the United Nations. You know that these are just puppets. Even if the ICJ rules in the favor of a ceasefire, and then it is then taken to the United Nations Security Council, one main member state will veto it and they cannot go with that decision. So these are just puppets. What is the point of a United Nations? It should be above all nations, and they should have an overarching view and a hand over everyone and everything, regardless of which nation is being represented or who has a membership in the UN. That's supposed to be the duty of a UN. So again, we hold no hope in the UN. We hold no hope in the ICJ. And I'm sure, and I can say with almost certainty, and maybe you will also be able to say this here, that none of the people of Gaza at this stage have any desire in the ICJ. Because they are witnessing and physically experiencing the nusrah and the help of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and they know that all of these are just fake puppets on the side. That's not our discussion for today. I want to highlight, in the short time that we have over this week and next week inshallah, some of the reasons and the lessons that we learn from the people of Gaza and what has been unfolding over the last more than 3 months, 110 days and more. You heard just 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, when Sheikh Maulana Yusuf mentioned that when we see what is taking place, we should use that as a point of reflection as to the happenings in our lives, and take some lesson from the people of Gaza. Yani what level of iman does a person have? It is beyond the comprehension of any human being living in today's age and time, that the person says, Allahumma khudh min arwahina hatta tarda. Allahu Akbar. He's saying this here gives you shivers. Allahumma khudh min awladina hatta tarda. Allah, take from our souls as much as you desire. Allah, take from our children as much as you want until you are happy. Allah, take from our blood as much as you want. The woman and the sister says, Lan nuhzam. We will never be defeated. The brother says when they ask, how will you rebuild what you have lost? He says, Allah was always there, Allah is always there now. Where does this come from? And what can we learn from the people of Gaza? So above all matters, and the most important element, we start off with that, and next week will be, inshallah, the cherry on the top. Above all is that unwavering faith. You see, unfortunately for many human beings and many weaklings, I start with myself first, is that there are very few moments in our lives when we actually taste the sweetness of Iman. ذَاقَ طَعْمَ الْإِيمَانِ. That person has tasted the sweetness of Iman. It's an intangible sensation and feeling that only a person who crosses that, and only a person who goes through that moment of Imani ecstasy, that will be able to, share some of those feelings. We can never fathom, and we will never be able to understand the Iman and the resilience of the people of Gaza. Perhaps we may come close somewhat to some degree of the sweetness of Iman is in our seasons of worship, like Ramadan. For those of us who are very diligent in Ramadan, who was stuck with the Quran, and we do some tahajjud and this and that, and we stay away from sin, then perhaps we'll have a moment of that ecstasy of Iman. It is for this reason that we do not. It's not a permanent sensation and feeling for us, but it is when the people, like the people of Gaza, are going through what they are going through, then that sensation and that feeling is permanent. Then you have tasted Iman to a point. You have tasted Iman to a point that you will not waver. I couldn't believe it. And a small child, this girl, is reciting Quran, and she hears the bombs falling, and she continues the recitation of Quran. Yani, it's impossible for us to describe this. And you see these videos, and you get goosebumps, and you are amazed, and you are shocked, and every feeling goes through you. If we use one sound outside in the car park now, something that resembles a gunshot, maybe a firework, we'll all be like stressed out and be looking outside. Young girl, small little girl, she's got a hijab and a burqa on, she's sitting down and she's got the mushaf in front, and she's just reciting Quran. There, this bomb is falling, and you can hear from the sounds that it's very close to where she is. And she carries on. وَأَنزَلْنَا مِنَ الْمُعْصِرَاتِ مَاءً ثَجَّاجًا. Can't forget those verses. The boy is reciting this verse, and they are doing the stitches on his head. That is his anesthetic. I mentioned a few weeks ago, and I'll remind ourselves again, for people living 1,400 plus years after Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the golden era of Islam, and the golden era of the Sahaba, if you want to see Islamic characteristics and sifat being displayed and played out like was displayed and like was lived by the Sahaba, then look at what is happening in Gaza now, and look at the people of Gaza. When Allah says, "In tansurullaha yansurkum," if you are happy, if you help the deen of Allah and protect the deen of Allah, Allah will bring nusrat and aid to you. Such people who can say, Allah, take how much blood you want. Allah, take how many children you want. Allah, take how many souls you want. Until you are happy, Allah. Because I know and understood my purpose of existence. The Iman of the people of Gaza, and I said this the other day in one of the programs in the masjid, is of such a level, It's on such a level and yaqeen, like the Sahaba, when they moved to a land and they moved to a country or a city, they changed the entire landscape. Northern African countries are now Arabic speaking. They were never Arabic speaking before. It is when the Sahaba moved and made hijrah with da'wah to these locations that the entire landscape changed. The areas of upper North Syria and those areas, they were Roman lands. And the entire landscape changed. They're no longer known as Romans, Arabs, Arab. Indonesia, Malaysia, Maldives, all these places. The entire landscape changed. The cultures changed. Arabian culture, the language of Arabic. That will happen when your iman is brimming and it is at its peak. The people of Gaza cannot move, but their iman is being beamed throughout the world today. That even atheists are saying that I am now reading the Quran because if this same book is causing the people of Gaza to be resilient on this level, I have to read the Quran. Atheists are becoming Muslim. Jewish people are becoming Muslim. Former Zionists are becoming Muslim. Christians are becoming Muslim. Influential people are becoming Muslim. YouTube and TikTok stars are becoming Muslim in their dozens. Across the ditch and across the Tasman, maybe we're not seeing it so much in New Zealand because everything reaches us very late. Just across the Tasman, in their dozens, in their tens of numbers, in America and all these places, people and young people are becoming Muslim. Influential people are becoming Muslim. Because at the heart of it and the core of it is Iman. La ilaha illallah. Have we understood what is La ilaha illallah? Have we tasted what is La ilaha illallah? Are we grateful to Allah and La ilaha illallah? To the point that now that nur of that Iman and the barakah of that yaqeen and that Iman that you possess in your heart is being beamed to the entire world. It is being beamed to the entire globe. That people are taking Shahada, people are becoming Muslim. People who you would have not have considered and thought that such types of people, or such categories of people will become Muslim ever. And those are becoming Muslim. That is when that Iman of yours has reached its peak and it's complete and you have tasted the yaqeen and you have crossed the bar. You've already, you have physical bodies in this dunya, but you're already in the next life. You're in a different realm. This is where we are. This is where we are falling. This is where we are falling short. I said this and I'll say it again. Living in a Western culture society and being exposed to Western culture and society all the time through our medias and phone and all of those things, we become soft inside. Rasulullah said, a strong believer, physically and in terms of his faith, is better and more beloved to Allah than the weak believer. Which side are we on? Which side are we on? Are we the strong believer who cannot conquer? We cannot conquer our own nafs and shaitan and be present for salah. Or we will allow the nafs to overtake us and be absent for salah. Which believer are we? The observer on the side that looks, will be marveled, will be amazed, will be shocked, and then move on. What type of believer? We ought to ask ourselves this question. Sometimes, whenever I talk of this, maybe some people are unhappy about it. Sometimes I spoke amongst the youth and they're unhappy about it. A believer, and I'm not discounting mental health issues, I'm not discounting it by Allah. But for a believer with the resilience of Iman, then this is something that is almost unfound and unheard of. The latest statistics now, just the other day, this last week, the highest number of suicide deaths is amongst the atheist community. It's not our statistics, it's their statistics. And the lowest number of suicide deaths is amongst the Muslims. Why? Iman. Iman. When you don't have faith and you don't have Iman, you got nothing. You'll kill yourself. Why? What's the point of living? The most miserable, the statistics, the most miserable, depressed souls in the dunya today are the atheists. The most content souls in the dunya today are the Muslims. Just look at Gaza and you'll have to see that. I think the brother is sitting at his home after it has been bombarded, and they asked him, how will you go back to this year? And he said, Allah. He said, Allah. Unfortunately, we don't have time because the Dhuhr starts a bit late these days. But there's so many things that we need. Just open our eyes, brothers. We are so micro-focused on this dunya. And that's why I reminded you in the beginning and remind ourselves right in the ending again for the brothers and sisters who may have come late. Shift your attention and focus away from the nations of the dunya. Because aid and assistance doesn't come from them. Help doesn't come from them. Nor the ICJ, nothing. The aid and assistance is only going to come from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Put that compass of yours, focus it to Allah. Put that imani compass and focus it towards the heavens. Focus it towards your Rabb. The one who gives you good times and the one who tests you sometimes. وَلَنَبْلُوَنَّكُمْ بِشَيْءٍ مِنَ الْخَوْفِ وَالْجُوعِ وَنَقْصٍ مِنَ الْأَمْوَالِ وَالْأَنفُسِ وَالثَّمَرَاتِ. Allah will put you through these tests. وَبَشِّرِ الصَّابِرِينَ. And Allah says, Allah is with those who are patient. Allah is with them. That is our biggest problem today. Is the weakness of our faith. Myself first. Obviously everybody else is in a different situation. May Allah forgive us all. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bring and grant us that. I spoke about this before. And we need to remind ourselves that we are believers. We have Iman. We have the kalima with us. We have the sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam with us. We have the Quran with us. How can a nation who has the Quran be destroyed ever? Hasha wa kalla. Wa akhiru da'wana alhamdulillah.